Maybe we'll get a second straight week of Harrison Butker kicking through a game-winning field goal and triggering every progressive from coast to coast. Maybe that'll happen this weekend in Atlanta on Sunday Night Football. I don't know. It's entirely possible. This hate piece I saw written about Harrison Butker is just, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that makes you wonder where we're headed culturally. The fact that people are writing pieces about how Harrison Butker is the most hated kicker in the NFL. And people write about this, and they write about it with like a smile on their face. Imagine feeling this way about somebody and writing an article like this on Slate.com, which is just one of those, wannabe Time Magazine, pop culture mixed with news, mixed with really far left-wing ideology outlets.
Right about that, but it begs the question, well, then who is the most loved kicker?
Yeah.
Did we get that article? If
No.
you're ranking them, apparently.
That one hasn't been, I don't know. Do we have
Who's in the middle of the pack there, and how can they do better?
Great question.
You know?
I
We
think
had Cairo Santos here. He's with the Bears.
Yeah.
A few of our suck-ups around still.
It's a good point.
I like Cameron Dicker, the kicker.
Oh, yeah, Dicker the kicker. That's right. He used to be with the Texas Longhorns.
Yeah.
Lastly, I'll mention Lynn Elliott's name. Missed several field goals in the playoffs, so his name here probably even further down the list.
Well, I think the left is waiting for the blue-haired transgender kicker to show up in the NFL. They'll love that one.
Nail it.
Yeah, but that person does not exist yet. So in the meantime, they just want to hate Harrison Butker. That's how this works. So this piece written on Slate.com, headlined, "The most hated kicker in the NFL never misses," and they're melting down over it. It says here, millions now want Harrison Butker to shank a big one, but he never does. By the way, the left loves shanking the big one, but that's neither here nor there, okay? So here's what they write in part. So this season, there are more people waiting on a huge Butker failure than have ever waited on a kicker's downfall. What does that say about someone who, like, watches the NFL to hate a kicker?
Well, that typifies a left mindset.
Oh, man. I mean, I remember the whole Colin Kaepernick thing, where obviously I didn't like Kaepernick and what he was trying to do and trying to politicize himself in the NFL and make himself bigger than the NFL and capitalize off his, anti-America hatred. I don't like that at all. But now Colin Kaepernick at that point was kind of a backup anyway when he started most of that nonsense. But I don't remember feeling like, boy, if Kaepernick gets in there, I hope he throws 5 interceptions and just totally melts down. I don't remember having any feelings about Kaepernick. I remember disagreeing with his stance and how he was using his on-field platform, not off-field, but his on-field platform to further a political narrative. But I never remember being like, man, I hope this guy gets in the game and gets sacked on every play. But that's how many feel about Harrison Butker, because he had the audacity, tongue-in-cheek, in his spare time to go to Benedictine College and give a speech to a Catholic college for their commencement on the importance of family. Not ragging on women for going to work. Don't misconstrue what was said. We've gone over this now for 4 months, but simply pointing out, hey, as men, we need to be husbands and fathers first, and as women, we need to be mothers and wives first. Not don't have a career, not don't go to the workplace, but put your life in priority of what matters the most. That was the message from Harrison Butker. And the people who want to ruin the traditional family values were very upset about this. So Slate writes here, this season there are more people waiting on a huge Butker failure than have ever waited on a kicker's downfall. Right now, Butker is quite likely the most famous that any kicker has ever been. Owing to his time in the conservative media spotlight, the Chiefs' success, and his reasonable proximity to Taylor Swift, who he has probably met 2 or 3 times. Taylor Swift goes nuts after Harrison Butker nails game-winning field goal in Chiefs-Bengals game, one Sunday headline read. The headline construction reflects the belief of the publication's editors that both Taylor Swift and Harrison Butker are useful names to place in a headline about an NFL game's conclusion. I bear the unfortunate news for fans of other NFL teams. Swifties who resent their hero's boyfriend's teammate and all social liberals with a passing interest in the NFL, Harrison Butker is never going to F this up. You will never get a moment to celebrate karmic retribution against him on the field. So they're writing about the fact that they admit Butker's basically so good that they're never going to get their moment that they want to get where he shanks a field goal in the AFC Championship game. Now, you never say never, but here's the thing about Harrison Butker. And this is what people, I think, and not that I know him at all, but this is what I think people misunderstand based on his values. You can hate on him all he wants. He may shank a big kick one day. He might do it. He's a human being. But if and when that happens, he is not going to let you destroy him. I mean, you can try to, obviously, but I'm saying he knows he's got it. He knows who's on his side. He knows that as a man of faith, there's only so much he can control. And he knows that when push comes to shove, he's a kicker after he's a father and after he's a husband. And that his relationship with those individuals matters far more than what the media is saying about him at any given point in time. So they want Harrison Butker to live in this weird secular world where he scrolls through his mentions all day and he cries because no-name, anonymous people are blasting him on X. The people who don't have the backbone to put their faces or their names on their social media profiles but talk a tough game. He wants them to melt down in the face of that like they do. The difference is he doesn't, because he's not part of that culture that obsesses over what people who don't know him say about him. They live in that world. Harrison Butker doesn't. And he's made that very clear. And he hasn't backed down from any of it. So when I see pieces like this, what these people are really doing is owning themselves. What they're really doing is showing their true colors on who they are and what their belief structure and belief system is. And they go to show how shallow and hollow they are as people. They think they're owning Harrison Butker. They think we're showing Harrison Butker. What they're really doing is showing themselves. What they're really doing is showing how shallow they are and how hollow they are as writers and as individuals. And if they could have the depth of the relationships that Harrison Butker has, not just religiously speaking, but also clearly with his family and himself, boy, they would be much happier individuals, and there would be a lot more meaning to their lives, rather than worrying about whether or not a kicker that they don't like because of his traditional values ends up shanking one in a big game. Could you imagine spending your life living it that way?